Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving holiday weekend. We have a lot to get to tonight, and we're going to talk about arguably one of the biggest games ever, and that's the Michigan Wolverines and Ohio State Buckeyes. And then we'll get to several hockey topics. With that said, let me introduce my team tonight. Rod Peterson out in Music City.
Hello, everybody. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And George Eichhorn from Motor City.
Yes, happy evening, happy Monday too.
All right, well, we have a busy agenda. Like I said, we'll start off with the Wolves, and then we have a bunch of hockey topics, one of which will keep us in Motor City. In fact, we have two Motor City hockey topics tonight. With that said, Michigan's 13-10 win over the Ohio State Buckeyes. Both teams were fined $100,000, probably chump change for them anyways. You had Sharon Moore, Ryan Day, and I want to talk about Urban Meyer in a moment. But Ohio State ends up missing two field goals in this game and let Michigan hang around. And everybody knows that U of M tried to plant the field, and that didn't make out too well with the Ohio State players. So, first of all, Rod, what are your thoughts about that situation with the flag attempt by the Wolverines?
I think it's juvenile. I think it's dumb. It was the topic of our talk show today. We had a poll on it if people thought that we should ban flag planting attempts at all, and over 60% of people said, "Yeah, let's just ban it altogether." It's silly. I don't like it. I mean, there was a police officer was hospitalized in the situation. I don't think this is what college football wants young kids to see or anything like that. I mean, that itself was bad. Coming out of rivalry weekend, that this is what people are talking about is kind of sad. I know you're going to get to the Hurricanes and everything else. I don't like it. If they ban, somebody said today the teams have to pay $100,000, but the players get off scot-free. It should just be banned entirely. And the other thing is, OSU fans want Ryan Day fired, the coach, because he's never beaten Michigan. But the fact of the matter is, they're still going to be in the college football playoff. They still could win the biggest games ahead. So it was a very weird scenario in Columbus on Saturday. My vote is for banning any flag planting attempts moving forward.
Right, actually, Ryan Day's 1-4, but you are right. He had one victory, and then of course he's lost four. But you are right.
Four, sorry.
No, that's okay. You're definitely okay. A 4-game losing streak. Jim Harbaugh obviously got to him, and Sharon Moore's done a really super job there with him as well. So when you talk about this particular situation, and again, I agree. I mean, but let me tell you this. No, we're not talking about Miami, but but we will stay in the state of Florida, as the Florida Gators attempted to do the same thing up in Tallahassee when they put the flag over in the middle of the field at Doak Campbell Stadium. So it seems to be a trend, but not the right type of trend. If people ask me, why am I wearing a USF Bulls shirt tonight? Well, let's face reality. I am actually that is my alma mater. So yeah, is it a hockey show, Pensman? You bet. We're getting to that in a moment, but you can't not talk about this. So anything else you want to add to it, Rod?
No, not at all. Other than it depends on the side of this. I'm very interested to hear what George and you have to say about it. They asked Baker Mayfield his thoughts on it. He goes, well, of course they shouldn't ban it. Of course Baker's going to say that. He very famously did it with Oklahoma. Just because Baker Mayfield says it's okay doesn't mean that it's okay. I'd like to see them do away with it entirely. It's fun stories and all the rest, but I think they got carried away.
All right, George, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a problem with it as well. The flag planting is not needed. I don't like that at all. This one got so violent. I never expected the violence to break out like this. I'm not happy that the police started spraying mace or pepper spray, on the players. I thought that was in really bad taste. Pardon my pun. And I got a question. I guess it's okay, to issue a lot of suspensions and fines. But you're right. I mean, I didn't hear any of the players called to task. I mean, somebody slugged one of the Michigan assistant coaches, and I'm sure Michigan threw some punches too. And for the commissioner's office in the Big Ten to just say, "Oh, this is the end of it now. They both got their fines, and this will be the end of it." I don't like that one bit, because we go back, us guys in Michigan, to remember the tunnel fight with Michigan
Right.
and Michigan. And that stuff went all the way to the prosecutor's level, prosecutor's office in the county. I'm not trying to say we got to prosecute these kids for fighting, but it was just a bad ending, really bad. Never
Yeah.
expected that to happen like that. And I thought it was pretty sad.
Hey, Penman, just to let you know what Joshua Dorr is referencing, by the way, it is actually the South Florida Tribune when you go ahead and do your streaming, not the Turbine. I don't know what a Turbine is. It might be somewhere out in Qatar, but just so you know that it is a Tribune, not Turbine. No big deal. You're doing some wonderful things on the streaming end of your thing, Penman. We love you and looking forward to have you on Wednesday night. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I definitely believe that you have to ban it, but well, you have to try to do it. How are you going to get away with it? They're still going to keep doing it. As far as I'm concerned, an in-state rivalry or a big rivalry. But here's the thing about this that we can't lose sight of. Michigan all week long had to live with the feeling that they were 24-point underdogs, that they were going to get their tail kicked. And all they did was hang around
Yep,
until they won the football game.
exactly. That's it,
And
Scott. They sure did.
they did. And not only that, okay, you're talking about house money. The Wolverines were on house money all week. So they had everything to gain, nothing to lose. Let me go ahead and make a interesting reference when I was watching the Fox pregame show, or at least I caught it at the right time, when Charles Woodson was the only one that predicted the Michigan win by 3 points. And we all know that Urban Meyer was going to make sure that his score was the most lopsided all because of his disdain for Michigan. Guess what, Urban? Okay, didn't work out for you. And I can imagine that if I see you in person, Urban, I have nothing against you at all except the fact that you screwed up the Jacksonville Jaguars anyways. I mean, there was no coaching mess worse than what you left poor Doug Peterson. But here's the thing, okay, Urban, okay, what you did there was one thing. I just find it hard to believe that this guy, I would rather feed him a 4-minute grilled cheese sandwich that I made in college so he can lose his teeth rather than him having to eat crow because he can only imagine what he ended up doing. And as I understand, Desmond Howard for ESPN predicted Michigan, but Charles Woodson got the 3 points correct. So more power to him. Just a few side notes as well. So with that said, okay, let's go on to the next topic. We're going to bring Candy Epling in for a station break. While everybody know 108 Stitches Baseball Talk will be following the show at approximately 8:15, somewhere around there. So did you know? Okay, don't worry, Rod. I'm not trying to trick you tonight. I'm just going to give you some did you knows, okay? If I want to trick you, I'll find a way to do it, but not tonight because this is a show that's educational and informative, and this is going to provide you with that. Did you know that Jake Allen is the first goalie in NHL history to record a win against 33 franchises? Did you know that, Rod?
No.
Guess what? You're a little smarter now.
Yeah. Well, are we going to go through and name them? Obviously, that includes the Arizona Coyotes and the Utah Hockey Club. What other
Well, that's
teams
his
might get?
33rd
Jake
one.
Allen's not that old. I know what you're saying. Jake Allen's not that old. That's a heck of a stat.
Yeah, it's okay. Hey, listen, we all like to go out there and talk about interesting stats, but the ones I look up for, as I said, what we're doing with this format is we revised it to do a couple sports exchanges a month to talk about the national hockey itself, and then we bring it to Fire Up Florida. We're able to focus on Florida subjects as well, and I think this format has worked out well. We started a new format last week with Cam Ward. George, did you know about that?
No, I did not know. So you've educated me and Rod this evening, Scott. That is quite an achievement. I'm telling you, from whether it's whether it's a guy named Gordie Howe or Wayne Gretzky or a guy named Allen, that's incredible. It's an incredible stat.
Well,
I give him
okay.
credit.
Well, I've got another good. Did you know that we go to a station break, October 16th, 2018. Something I came up with. Connor McDavid becomes the first player in NHL history to factor on each of his team's first 9 goals to start a season. Rod, did you know that?
No. Where are you finding these things, Scott? Are you going to divulge that?
I have my sources.
I knew that was going to be his answer, Ron.
I have my sources. Come on, that's what I love about these things. Hey, this is interesting stuff. One thing I've learned to do over the years is I really truly like the research part of it and the behind the scenes stuff. George will tell you that, right, George? Hey, I
Oh,
love going on
absolutely.
the air delivering the goods, but all the stuff that you can come up with, beforehand is what makes it so much fun to come up. Because I love to educate people and tell people this stuff. But at least this night you're getting off easy, Rod, because instead of me deliberately going ahead and stumping you, go ahead, partner.
Can I ask you a question? You guys got to clarify this. I have been reading more of this book called Lessons from the Microphone with Scott Morgan-Roth. And wonderful forward. The forward's probably the best part of the book.
Okay.
But you guys were both producers at WXYZ.
Yeah.
Producers / part-time talent. And I say that only because at WXYZ, basically we were a producer, executive producer, call screener, that kind of stuff. Yeah. There were a couple of times when if we were at an event, we phoned in a report and the host would put us on the air. But most of the work was done, behind the scenes as producers.
Well, I actually wish our Florida viewers were able to reference WXYZ, because I told Scott, I don't know if you knew, George, but growing up, our cable television in Western Canada was Detroit. So I had all of those channels. So to be in the presence of the greatness of you two guys tonight is amazing to me. And the point is, as producers, you would be used to making others look good, right? That's kind of what you do in that role.
Yeah.
You know what, Rod? That's a great point. And you know what? Joshua Dorr asked me a question about you today and asked me who some of my best announcers were when we were on a FaceTime call. And I told him, obviously, George, I've known him a long time. And, we pretty much know each other backwards and frontwards and all that. But you were the one, your name came up. And the reason why I brought your name up is you're a seasoned pro. You worked for Saskatchewan for 20 years, as well as you've done hockey, and your resume speaks for itself. But when I talk about the feeling that, excuse me, that I have to be able to surround myself with top-notch talent, I do that because it makes my job easier. You guys are figuring me out, Rod. You're the new guy in town, obviously. And I like to joke around, but I have a serious side of me as well. But, everybody that we have on our network, okay, is talented and they bring something to the table. This chat room here has really matured a lot compared to when I first started here. I used to go ahead and want to be Mo on here and bang their heads together. But now these guys, I don't have to do that anymore because they know what they need to put in there to keep flow going versus what they didn't do when they disrupted. And that more power to the training. You can train not only train talent, but chat room. And a lot of the guys, to name a few, would be Joshua Dorr. Pensman's done a good job. And to name a few other ones who've come a long way with some of their comments and make them as close to what we're trying to strive for as well. But get back to what you said, though. It is our job to make people look a lot better. But I don't mind that because you know what? Even as a host of all these different shows that we have going on here, okay, if I don't do my job to keep this thing moving in the proper direction, then we all look bad. But I love the challenge. It's something I really thrive on. But you two are unquestionably, with your background in this industry, are so much easier for me to work with because you know the game. And that's the most important thing about it. I'm not discounting the other people on the network, but you guys are proven broadcasters as your experience indicates.
Well,
of course, both of you will
Yep.
be in the next book, which I'm really planning on starting around mid-January or end of January. I really do. And I can tell you, I can mentor people that have already learned a few things or not, but you know what, Josh, and you, D-Lowe's, you're right. I do have strict rules in the chat room because I want it to be ethical and friendly and positive, and I will apologize for nothing. So, but thanks a lot. I'm glad you're progressing through the book, and I hope you enjoy the rest of it for sure. Yeah, Joshua Dorr already knows I don't want to get banned. Oh, there you go. Bingo. With that said, I couldn't go to a station break any better than I'm about to do with Joshua Dorr leading me into it, and that'll bring Candy Ebling on to give us a station break. Thank you, Candy.
You are welcome. You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see the red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed yet. Please do so. And then go visit our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. And what is on the website? Nothing but a link to this fabulous book that you need to get as a gift to either yourself or a family member. It was written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, and the foreword was written by George Eichhorn. The title, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. The link is on our website. There's a link on our website to our fabulous store in case you wanted a sweatshirt, t-shirt, hat, you name it, go check it out, South Florida Tribune. If you would like to be a guest on the show or have show ideas, you can email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. Go to our website, read all three of these fine gentlemen write for the South Florida Tribune. Go check out their articles. They all write on different topics, so there's a plethora of stuff to see. And then if you like to look at pictures, you can take a meander and look at some of the pictures I've taken that are up there. But if you like to listen to podcasts, you can get us wherever you get your podcast. Scott, back to you.
Joshua Dora, I think you know the answer to the thing that you put up there, but I'm not going to get into it, so we'll just kind of leave it where it's at. But that said, Rod does some incredible writing for us. He really, really does. I enjoy reading your stuff more and more every single day. And I think that's just great that you have, not only do you bring a great depth with your writing, we all know what you do on the air, but, one of the things I'm hoping to do as I go into 25, I'm trying to do what I have to do in 2024 to get that second book up and going. But I'll just mention this by you guys. I've always been a firm believer that you have to be a good writer to be a good speaker, so you get a command of the language. One thing I want to ask you about the Michigan thing, Rod, does Canada view the Michigan-Ohio State game as a big rivalry?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're not as big as college football followers as you would think. They're CFL fans first, NFL a close second, and then college, they watch it this time of year because it's on. But, they follow the coverage. They saw that it was a big rivalry weekend, but they're nowhere into it like Americans. They're watching it, but they see the crowds. I don't think they understand. You kind of got to be there to understand the feeling, the vibe, right? And the hatred, even in some cases. Yeah, there's nothing like it.
If you didn't understand the hatred on Saturday, then you don't know what hatred is anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? I have an interesting thing that I am finding more and more intrigued as I see more of them. Detroit is actually being considered as a pro women's hockey league expansion target. So, Rod, what are your thoughts about pro women's hockey in Detroit?
Well, George would be a better one to ask than me about that. I mean, you've seen all these leagues and teams come and go, George. Here's the thing about that league. It's the hockey version of the WNBA. The ratings are strong. The ticket sales are strong. And I've got a niece who's potentially the number one female hockey playing athlete in the NCAA. She plays at Mercyhurst, so we're following very closely the opportunity that she could play in the professional women's hockey league one day. So I think it's great for these ladies to have the chance to continue their career post collegiate and make a living at it. I'm all for it. It's amazing to me. You guys must hear the talk of the not resurgence, surge of women's sports popularity in North America. I don't understand it. The WNBA is expanding great guns. They went to Portland. They're going to Toronto next. Why not Detroit? There just seems to be an appetite for it. Why there is now and there hasn't been for years, I don't know, but it's here.
I like that answer from a guy that doesn't live there. That's okay. That's a really good answer, Rod. All right, we'll turn it over to Mr. Detroit, George Eichhorn.
Well, it's easier said than done, fellas. We've already got 4 teams playing on each other's schedule. We've got concerts downtown. We got arena dates that are filled with musicians and concerts at Little Caesars Arena. I'm not trying to say it couldn't work, but I'm just caution to the wind because with 5 teams downtown, if you count our soccer team, which, by the way, is building a new stadium not far from where Old Tiger Stadium used to sit, there's a lot of competition for the sports dollar here, not to mention, Detroit, University of Detroit, Oakland University, as Scott knows, and U of M's not that far away. All this being said, can they support it? yes. But if you want to have crowds of, over 8,000 every game, I don't think that's going to work. They drew very well. They had a game there last spring, and Boston played one of its home games here at Little Caesars Arena, and they drew very well. There were over 12,000 fans there. So it drew very well for one of the games. And they are getting a game again in the spring, I saw. One of the teams is scheduling a game in Detroit. So I just, the only caution I throw out there is just that there's so much competition for the dollar right now, entertainment and sports wise in Detroit. But I'm very impressed. I'm very upbeat about women's hockey. They've come a long way. They've done a great job in the U.S. and, of course, Canada, too, the women's teams and in the Olympics and the World Championships.
Yeah, I have no doubt in my mind that I think women's hockey in Detroit would work. Women's sports, as Rod alluded to, is starting to grow great. And with Detroit being the hockey town that it is, there's no question about it. I think it'll work out well. I mean, it's a commodity is what it is. It's not anything as established as the NHL, but you still want to give the ladies another level to be able to play above where they're able to play. Like Rod mentioned, the WNBA, the way it's growing. So I think they're definitely, in my opinion, headed in the right direction. I have no reason to think that Detroit would not be able to support women's hockey.
I hope you're right. There's certainly an appetite for it, as we know. And like you mentioned, now Detroit, there's also a rumor about Detroit coming and joining the WNBA again, but that's just talk right now. But no, Scott and Rod, I agree. I mean, there's an appetite for it, and just fitting it into the schedule is what has to be done. And I think they will be able to be successful.
One thing I'd caution is the WNBA I watch because it's on, and stick with me on this. The athletes aren't wearing helmets or masks. To see Angel Reese, to see Caitlin Clark, you know who those stars are. Whereas in hockey, I hear it from my Florida friends, they struggle a little bit to get into it because the guys are all wearing masks and visors. They can't see who they are. And I think the same thing would happen with the women. I really do. Like, a lot of these teams aren't making money. I'm not sure the owners even care whether they do or not. To get 12,000 or whatever it was for a one-off is one thing. To expect to have it regularly is totally another. I hope they put a lot of thought into this is all that I'm saying.
No, I think you're right. I think the biggest important thing that people have to understand is if you're able to book one of these events, women's hockey, all you're doing is adding some sort of revenue to the arena is what you're doing. So you have that building occupied for one night and depending on how many nights and how long the season is. Penzman, let's go to a point with Penzman. I really like this one. 4 straight years Michigan beat Ohio State. Ryan Day needs to be fired. Let's go. The only problem with that, though, Penzman, is he got like a $38 million buyout. And Ohio State, just so people have to understand, ended up going ahead and spent $12 million in NIL money, okay? And when you spend $12 million in NIL money thinking that they were looking to win the game and then they lose the game, oh, Nelly.
But Scott, as we know, and Rod, the season is far from over. So this is why I think they're not going to fire him, because they are going to the playoffs. Michigan is going to be sitting home or going to the Music City Bowl, all due respect to Rod and his lovely wife there in Nashville. But the rumor is U of M would go to Music City or possibly Yankee Stadium for that bowl game. But all I'm saying is that, Scott, and it really is not the end of the world for Ohio State. Now, don't get me wrong. He looks like a fool losing 4 in a row to them. No question about it. He does. He looks foolish, but he wasn't out on that field when that field goal kicker shanked two easy, routine field goals. But I'll leave it at that, Scott. I agree with you, though. I mean, he does look goofy not being able to win against Michigan the last 4 years.
Oh, $38 million buyout isn't chump change. It's a lot of money.
Right.
But the thing is the only thing I've ever had a problem with Ryan Day is when he thought he's going to put 100 points up on Michigan, and he ended up eating his words there. Otherwise, I think he's a really good coach, and he'd get snapped up. I think if he leaves Ohio State, honestly, his next trip, he'll go to the NFL. I really believe that. All right, we'll bring a little Panther stuff here for Joshua Doer's thing. He says, I'm looking forward to seeing Spencer Knight start the next couple of games. His last 2 were solid performances. There's no question, I think, Rod, you cover the Panthers. Spencer Knight's a future goaltender, to me, of the Florida Panthers, unless anybody can tell me otherwise.
No. They've been handling him with kid gloves ever since they drafted him 3 years ago now. He's coming off I think it was a 20 save shutout in the Panthers' most recent game, which was on the weekend. The Panthers are on a winning streak. Yeah, it was against the Carolina Hurricanes on Saturday, where they absolutely manhandled them 6-0 in American Bank Arena. Yeah, I don't know what Joshua thinks, but I love the way the Panthers are handling this. Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be 38 this year, but he's the reigning Stanley Cup champion. He's a finalist for the Vezina Trophy as the #1 goalie in the NHL. There's no rush to bring Spencer Knight in. Bob isn't going anywhere, so they're giving him more and more starts, as Joshua said. Let's remember, people don't like it brought up, but it's a fact. 2 years ago, Spencer Knight entered the NHL Player Assistance Program.
Right.
Why? Doesn't matter. But the team stuck with him. Put him in Charlotte, their American Hockey League team, where he did great things, and now he's up with a big club. They're bringing him along slowly. Everything's going according to plan. As we know, gentlemen, in sports, it doesn't always go according to plan. So far, so good. He is that talent. He has the talent to be the next one. Does he have the mentality? We're going to find out.
Yeah, I just wish NFL teams would be more patient with their quarterbacks, as Florida is with Spencer Knight. I really do. And the Red Wings are actually being patient with Sebastian Cossa. At some point, they're going to find out if this guy can play. But they've handled that real well. Trying to remember the point that I forgot. Pensman, good point that I forgot about. Trying to think of everything. But when you have reinforcements, and remind me what it is. Okay, you also stood there and just watched the fight, George. All right. I'll take whatever you want to go out there and throw at me, multitasking and doing what I've got to do. So if I have a memory lapse here and there, I'll deal with it. But no, the Panthers are handling him well. The Red Wings are handling Sebastian Cossa well. And I think the NFL needs to be able to have their quarterback sit for a year or two so these guys are ready to play. So it's all interrelated, and it all works out really well from that standpoint. Now, a topic that George wasn't here for, which is why I wanted to bring it back up again. Excuse me, on tonight's show was, and we talked about it. So the Nashville Predators, received a rare penalty for starting a game with an incorrect lineup. Rod, how often does this happen?
I've seen it happen in football. I've never seen it happen in hockey. And I broadcast almost 1,400 games of major junior in Canada. Never saw it one time. And I don't know if you have the stats in front of you in the NHL. I'd never heard of it happening before Nashville did it.
All right, George, what are your thoughts about this bizarre situation?
Yeah, I saw that, and they have the video of the referee announcing it to the crowd. I've never heard of that before. I never have. But if it's a rule, it's a rule. I mean, if that is something that the teams and the coaches have to follow, then doggone it. I mean, they deserve to have a penalty because I know that the lineup cards are exchanged in baseball, and that's the one you really see as far as the lineups go. But fans probably have to realize that all the pro sports teams have some sort of lineup that they give to the officials. But I'm telling you, it was kind of odd, though. Certainly odd. I've never seen it either called like that before either.
All right, Rob, thank you very much, Joshua Dorr, for bringing up what I forgot. Forgot about that penalty. I don't follow this stuff as religiously as you guys do, so I'll leave it at that. And go to Pensman's point. Do you feel that a quarterback should sit a year? I think they should sit out 2 if they can. But, why not? I mean, why do you think you have that thing called a bridge quarterback? If I sat there and followed every certain sporting event about what I forgot, who knows where my head would be. So I don't worry about a penalty here and there. In the end, really what it comes down to in the end, the way I look at it is quarterbacks need mentors. They do. And how many times have you seen it? Patrick Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith. Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre. I could sit here and go over many, many examples, and it's worked out well. Everybody, what the problem is these days with quarterbacks? I don't know if this is what it's like in the Canadian Football League, but anytime you get a new toy, and you get a new toy, how much are you anxious to go out there and use that new toy? And that's what these guys are.
Yeah.
New toys. But the problem is that's why you have so many that end up becoming failures or busts. And then all of a sudden they run into a situation where you have 2 or 3 coaching changes in a short period of time, and then everything
Yeah.
goes south with it.
And you're right, Scott. They put enormous pressure on these kids. We were there. We sat in the draft room in Detroit just back in April, and you know the pressure on these teams to win is tremendous, and on the coaches too, obviously, and the GMs, but especially on those young quarterbacks. And it's kind of like it's kind of like you're starting your career like at a disadvantage,
Yeah,
unfair.
I'm sorry, but you guys are
Go ahead,
forgetting
Rod.
you guys are forgetting the pressure that's being put on the coaches,
Right.
on the teams from the fans, right? So it's think about this for a second. Who's drafting the quarterbacks? The teams that finish 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Largely, they're the worst teams.
Right.
They don't have a veteran quarterback. You know, if I love the comparison of the Panthers bringing along Spencer Knight, but they've got Bob there, as I said. He's not going anywhere. NFL teams are drafting the best young quarterbacks out of necessity. They don't have anybody to start the next year. Look at the Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud starting immediately, Caleb Williams starting immediately, all of them. Trevor Lawrence. You name one since Patrick Mahomes that's been able to really sit and watch. They've ruined Mac Jones. The field,
Right.
the jury's out on Justin Fields. He's not playing now in Pittsburgh. A good friend of mine is George Cortez. He was the offensive coordinator in Buffalo, longtime CFL coach, and he said they would like 3 years to develop a first stringer. And I said, George, we ain't got 3 years.
Yeah.
But you talk about the pressure on the young kids. Yeah, it's wrong. But the pressure on the teams is out of control from the media and fans because they have no patience.
Well, here's the thing. That's why you have free agency, Rod. That's why a lot of these teams are trying to find a decent backup as a bridge quarterback is what you're doing for 1 or 2 years. Doesn't mean you've found the right guy, but you're trying to do that in an effort to get to where you're trying to go. And Blow, just a little FYI, okay. Turbine, we addressed that situation earlier. Pensman gets it. It's Tribune. So, Blows, I don't know what you were smoking earlier, but now you'll be able to go ahead and smoke that back a little bit. Realize, yes, we're the South Florida Tribune. We're all part of. We enjoy being. We do the best we can to try to make this the best platform possible. So not only is it all about the money, my friends, in terms of Blows, it's about the accuracy of what we do here, and that we aim. If there's a problem, that we fix it. So, covered a lot of ground tonight. I did promise Joshua Dorr, a topic and pertaining to the Boston Bruins, and I'm going to deliver it. October 19th, 1966, Bobby Orr made his NHL debut against Gordie Howe and the Detroit Red Wings. Are you surprised at that, Rod?
Well, surprised about what? That it was those guys were featured in that game, or that was the date of the game?
No, Bobby Orr made his NHL debut against the Red Wings.
Not really, because that was the original 6 era, right? There was only 4 other teams he could have, other than his own. The one interesting thing this weekend was, I got to dig into this. I'm going to be writing it in the South Florida Tribune NHL column, but the Bruins just had their centennial game on the weekend. The Stanley Cup was there. I think David Pastrnak played in his 700th career game, which was, I'm shocked that Pasta has been around that long, to be honest with you. But yeah, the Bruins doing a lot of great things recently.
Yeah, Bobby Orr, what a player he was. Too.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, the old Olympia Stadium in Detroit. I mean, that was where you wanted to be. I mean, those teams came in, the original 6 teams, including Bobby's Boston Bruins, and it was just an incredible experience. I was fortunate enough to go to several games there when the Red Wings played at the old Red Barn, they called it, Scott. You remember it as well as I do, the corner of Grand River and McGraw, the Olympia Stadium. What a great place. What a wonderful place to watch a game. But yeah, I mean, Orr is just an incredible story, and we all know what Gordie did. So it is kind of cool that they faced off against each other. The old pro, as you would say, Gordie at young rookie Mr. Orr. So it was a great matchup. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a picture of Gordie Howe and myself in the book. Only it was at the Pontiac Silverdome, and I had suffered a rotator cuff situation. So it wasn't Gordie giving me the elbow because of what he did on the ice. It's the fact that he gave me an elbow because I had that on there. But it was still fun. Yeah. I had the choice to put a good one in there or that one. I got that from the actual Pontiac Silverdome, and Bob Reynolds was actually there as well. But you know what, Rod? I am glad that you mentioned, the centennial game, because a lot of hockey historians realize how long the NHL has been around. Let me tell you, folks, the NHL has an incredible history, and make no bones about it. And the fact that you have an original six man, a team like Boston, let me tell you, I don't think I can tell you right now, okay, when you think about it in its entire perspective, don't tell me that there isn't a player on the planet that wouldn't want to play for an original six at least once in their entire career. Because I'll tell you, when you play for an original six team at some point or another, you almost want to feel as though that your career is complete in some way or another, especially when they win Stanley Cups or they compete. Unfortunately, in Canada lately, there's been a little bit of a dry spell with Toronto not winning since 67 and Montreal not in 93. But nevertheless, if you play for an original six team, that is certainly a thrill. And the Centennial game, I'm glad that you did bring that up, Rod. Great stuff as always.
My pleasure. And did you guys know that Scott's dad was a season ticket holder in the old Red Barn in Detroit? I read that in this book that I'm reading right now. It's called Lessons from the
I
Microphone.
saw that. Yes.
Gosh, look at this guy. I love it. I love it. Really? Seriously? I love it. Really? Seriously? Got my quote in. Yeah, my dad used to take me to a lot of games.
Yeah,
he did.
I remember that. I remember, and he took you to a lot of other games too as well. So that's something to be always proud of.
I know the one you're thinking of.
Yeah,
but that doesn't matter. Nevertheless, it's all good. Great show tonight, Rod. As always, you're pro. What else can I say about you, pal?
Same to you guys. Trying to follow your lead.
Yeah, you're doing a really good job. I'll tell you one thing. Rod's going to get in this book. I promised him he would, but I didn't promise him anything. He's earning his way in the book. I have to promise anybody anything. If you're good, you're positive, you bring something, you're getting in the next one. I am planning to work on it, as I said, sometime in January. I'm just trying to get the year done, and then I'll be able to have a clear mind in terms of how I begin to outline. And that'll be something I plan to do. You know, I'm working on a lot of Miami Hurricanes. We still don't have any idea where they're going to go yet. So unfortunately, they missed an opportunity to go to the ACC championship game, but no big deal. Consider where this program was 3 years ago under Mario Cristobal and where it is now. They've made a lot of progress for sure. So,
sure
any closing thoughts at all, Rod? Great job in the chat room with everybody. We appreciate all the contributions. You know, so what do you plan to do in Nashville while you're up there this week, Rod?
Not a whole lot. Like I say, it's Serena's conference, so I'm hanging out doing my daytime show. We're going to the Oak Ridge Boys Christmas special at the Grand Ole Opry on Wednesday night. That is the highlight. Today we were at the Johnny Cash Museum, so we're a couple of old-time country music fans, the two of us. So we're having big fun here in Music City.
Yeah, I've been to Nashville quite a few times. Great city. Now they've graduated to a point where they host a New Year's Eve celebration. I have a sister-in-law and that lives there along with her husband and my niece, and I enjoyed going there when I get an opportunity to see them. Not only is it a great place, but they're great people as well. So, you know, it's all good. George, anything else you want to add real quick before we flip over to baseball?
I think it's been a very good show. I know we touched on a lot of different subjects here today, but boy, oh boy, one thing I know for sure is fans love their hockey in Detroit, and the waiting game is not going to keep waiting for Lalonde and the Red Wings if this continues. So, but that's another story for another day. Fans are hungry for a winner in Detroit, and they want to make the playoffs this year. So the battle is still on.
Sometimes when you think about ironies and the way some of these subjects come up, it is ironic that we talk about the situation with the rare penalty, and Rod happens to be in Nashville where it happened. Okay. And then we're all talking about Bobby Orr, that Joshua wanted a Boston Bruins topic. We pulled that one out of our pocket. And the Pro Women's Hockey League, I'll be curious. I think that league has potential as long as people realize that whether it's a big money maker. I don't even think WNBA is even making any money, but they've come a long way. And then Connor McDavid, Jake Allen, and of course, Michigan, Ohio State doesn't get any better than that. Yes, Blows, Rod needs a South Florida Tribune hat. We're working out in our contract. We'll figure it out here. But, you know, we have the holidays to work on. But meanwhile, we're going to bring Candy Ebley on for one more station break, and then we'll turn over to Rod, George, let everybody know they get hold of themselves, and then George and I will flip over.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, please hit it. Like us, share us with all your friends and family. Monday nights, we talk, well, normally it's just baseball, but you never know, because tonight we're talking some hockey. We're throwing some different things at you. Tuesday nights, we talk football. Wednesday nights, Sports Exchange. You never know what we're going to be talking about. And Thursday night on Fire Up, we are not going to do a show this Thursday night. Next week. But Wednesday night, we also do on nofilter.net a show called the Motor City Madmouth Show. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can catch us wherever you get your podcasts. The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book late last year called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It talks about Scott's 40 plus years in the media business and how it has changed old school versus new school media. Get your copy today, available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there's a link to our merchandise store. And you can read all three of these fine gentlemen. They write tremendous articles, so go check it out. If you want to look at a little pictures, there's someone that took a couple pictures here and there. Go check it out. But if you want to be a guest on the show, email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to sponsor a show or advertise and have me, read off a blurb about your business, call Scott, 954-304-4941. We'd love to have you as an advertiser to the South Florida Tribune. That's it. Back to you. Back to the show. I know it's almost done. Savor the last couple more minutes.
Yeah,
Scott,
let me go over a couple things. Number one, the reason why we're not doing any shows on Thursday night is my dad will celebrate his 84th birthday, and he's in the local area. My brother Lonnie should be coming down as well. And not only that, guess what? Candy Ebling and my niece Bria are having a birthday tomorrow. How about that?
Hey.
And of course, and the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers are playing Thursday night, and we all know what a rivalry that is around this house. So, so now you know the reasons. All right, Rod, go ahead. Let everybody know how they get hold of you.
I just want to say happy 30th birthday to Candy, and just give me a follow at Rod Peterson on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and you can find all my various shows from there. South Florida Tribune podcast, our Cats and Bolts podcast on Florida NHL hockey, and the Daily Rod Peterson Show on Game Plus TV. You can find it all through at Rod Peterson.
Yeah, not only that, folks, please read his stuff. It's fantastic. You'll find Rod Peterson's name in the contributors' writings here in the South Florida Tribune. Does a fantastic job. All right, George, like myself, you have a book? Talk about it and let everybody else know.
Yep, I got a book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And thank you, Scott and Candy, for helping publicize it. It's a nice book. It's an easy read. A lot of historic photos in there. And Peterson, you'll love the photos in there too. If some of your buddies like Danny Gallivan and Dick Irvin even made it, Gordie Howe and Bud Lynch and Bruce Martin. A lot of hockey in there. So there's a link to the at the end of my articles. I write for the Motor City Tribune, which is underneath as a contributor underneath the South Florida Tribune banner. And you'll find my articles there and a link to the book. I enjoy these programs. You know that. I've been with Scott for over 45 years. It's a wonderful, wonderful partnership we've had. And Rod, you're a great man and a great writer. I echo Scott's sentiments, man. You cover the sport of hockey as great as anybody I know. So great,
thank you,
great
guys.
work. Great work, Rod. And
it's an honor to be with you guys. Thank you.
Well, I'll just say Rod's the best addition we've had all year. He's certainly been unbelievable. And as we conclude 2024, I'm looking forward to the things that Rod and I plan to do together in 2025. So to me, I'm excited. When you surround yourself with good people that are not only have a great heart, but are also talented, then you want to do more and more as well. So with that said, that does conclude this edition of the Sports Exchange. On behalf of Rod Peterson and George Eichhorn and Candy to the chat room, my name is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on the Monday night edition of the Sports Exchange. We'll have another edition on Wednesday night as well. So everybody have yourself a great day, and you can join us for 108 Stitches baseball talk at approximately 8:05 or so, 8:10, whatever it is, somewhere around there, next 15, 20 minutes. Good night, everybody, and have a great week, and hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and thanks for joining us. Bye now. Bye.